You're just back from war. You're mentally fried, emotionally bankrupt, spiritually overdrafted. You can barely tell the difference between a nightmare and lunch. And just when you thought things couldn't get any worse, you get a letter. Your only sister is dying and you need to save her. Fast. So what do? Simple. You run, literally, across 1950s America, dodging racism, your own PTSD, and maybe a few ghosts, all to bring your sister back home. If this sounds like a Hollywood thriller, hold your horses. This is Toni Morrison, and she doesn't do easy stories. Meet Frank Money. Yes, that's his name. And no, he doesn't have any. Frank is a Black Korean War veteran who's come back home to America with a suitcase full of trauma and nothing else. No medals, no healing, just nightmares, guilt, and demons whispering in his ear every time he closes his eyes. The story kicks off with a literal burial, not a metaphorical one, a real 6 feet under kind of burial. Frank and his sister Isidra, or C as she's called, once witnessed a man's body being laid to rest, or dumped, probably a homicide. Either way, that image sticks with them. It's not just the dead man being buried, you see. It's an entire Black experience under segregation that keeps getting shoved 6 feet under.
Many months later.
Fast forward to the present, and Frank is in trouble. Big trouble. He's been institutionalized, not exactly how most war heroes expect to be thanked. But Frank isn't your typical hero. He's grappling with some serious PTSD that manifests in violent episodes and a deep, clawing guilt he can't shake. Then he receives a letter, simple, stark, urgent. It says, "Come fast." So she is C, the little sister Frank used to protect back in Lotus, Georgia, a place he hated and ran from, but, a place that shaped him all the same. That letter really jerks Frank out of his institutional haze and sends him on this journey. It's kind of a road trip, kind of a soul-searching pilgrimage, part escape and honestly part rescue mission. Now, Frank isn't exactly a smooth traveler. He doesn't just hop on a Greyhound bus with a smile and a plan. He's got nothing but his trauma and a mission, plain and simple. Along the way, he's hitching rides, dodging trouble, and even gets shot at one point. The American South is just not kind to wandering Black men in the 1950s. And let me tell you, he's haunted by things he saw and did in Korea, including this tragic moment with a young girl in a field of wildflowers, a moment he spent years trying to bury under the heavy weight of denial. And then there's C. Sweet, trusting, book-unwise C. She got herself into trouble. Not the kind your nosy neighbor would gossip about, but the kind involving science, racism, and a doctor whose medical license, honestly, should have been revoked before he ever touched his first stethoscope. Dr. Bo, a eugenics-loving physician, takes C in as an assistant, but she's not helping with filing cabinets and tea. No, ma'am. She becomes a test subject in his bizarre and horrifying experiments, and the details are so chilling, so real, that you have to pause and remind yourself that yes, this is fiction, but definitely not fantasy. It's based on truths, Tuskegee truths. Frank arrives in time, barely, but he makes it. He gets her out, though she's dangerously ill. And here's where Morrison's story takes a surprisingly hopeful turn. They return to Lotus. Yeah, the same Lotus Frank once swore he'd never go back to. And guess what? The same town that felt like a coffin in his childhood becomes a kind of cradle. The women of the town gather around C, nursing her back to life. Not just physically, but spiritually too. Through their collective care, strength, and a whole lot of Black girl magic, C is restored.
Magic.
Frank too finds healing. Not in a skip-through-the-meadow way, but in small, grounded, believable ways. He confronts his past. He starts telling the truth. He digs up the literal and metaphorical dead things buried in his life, like the body from the opening scene, and gives them proper burial. That's what this book is, in many ways. A burial, a mourning, but also a return, a homecoming. That book, the one I've been talking about, is Home by Toni Morrison. Short, just 147 pages, but don't let the size fool you. It weighs a ton, and it hits like truth always does, quietly, deeply, and without asking permission. Let me be honest. Compared to Morrison's earlier works, Beloved, Song of Solomon, Sula, The Bluest Eye, home feels smaller, not just in length but in scope. There are no ghosts, no sprawling families across generations, no magical realism hovering in the background, but maybe that's the point. Home is stripped down Morrison. It's Morrison writing with surgical precision. No excess, no digressions, just truth. And even though it doesn't feature the paranormal, the book still carries a haunting. Frank is haunted. C is haunted. The reader, too, walks away with some residue of what they've read. A discomfort, a sadness, a quiet rage. Now, Morrison did something interesting with narrative voice in this novel. There are two styles at play here. The first italicized, first-person sections where Frank speaks directly to an invisible interviewer, or maybe to Morrison herself. He tries to tell his story, but he's unreliable. He even tells us not to trust him. He says things like, "I lied." And this makes sense. Healing doesn't come through clean timelines or tidy stories. Healing begins when we admit our stories are messy.
I'm a mess.
The second narrative style is a third-person limited point of view. It fills in the gaps Frank leaves behind. It gives us a wider view, but not a godlike one. We don't know everything. We just know enough. What struck me most in this novel was the theme of responsibility. Frank must face his past, not just what happened to him, but what he did. C must take responsibility for her naivete and learn that trusting people blindly, especially those in power, can be deadly. And America? Well, Morrison doesn't let America off the hook either.
But why?
Because this isn't just Frank's story. It's the story of so many Black veterans, so many Black women who became subjects instead of patients, so many families shattered by systemic cruelty. But amidst all this pain, there is care. Home shows us the quiet power of community. The women of Lotus, with their herbal remedies, their gossip, their judgmental but loving ways, they're the real unsung heroes of this story. They gather around C not because she's special, but because she's theirs. And Frank, he finally becomes a man not through war, but through love. And now, let's talk about Toni Morrison. You already know the name. Nobel Prize, Pulitzer Prize, a writer's writer, an editor, a cultural icon, the first Black woman to win the Nobel in literature. Morrison wrote about the Black American experience not just with empathy, but with unflinching honesty. She didn't write for white validation. She didn't dilute. She distilled. She gave us Beloved, a novel about slavery and memory that haunts you. Song of Solomon, a coming-of-age story that flies. Sula, a tale of friendship and betrayal. The Bluest Eye, her debut, which punches you in the gut and walks away. And then there's Home, a quieter book, a gentler book, but still unmistakably hers, still infused with Morrison's magic. Her understanding of language is, quite frankly, unmatched. She doesn't just use words, she communes with them. Home may not have the sprawling ambition of Beloved or the intricate lyricism of The Bluest Eye, but it's a Morrison book through and through. It's about what it means to belong. It's about the long shadow of American history. And more than anything, it's about how healing, real, hard-earned, scarred healing, begins at home. If you've ever been lost, if you've ever had to come to terms with who you were and what you've done, if you've ever found healing in unexpected places, this book will speak to you. So yes, Toni Morrison did it again. She stripped away the layers, left us exposed, and somehow gave us a mirror instead of a map. Highly recommended. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.